Hello, world. It is my pleasure to welcome each and everyone to the 98th Free International Webinar on Developing New Levels of Performance brought to us by the Institute of Global Professionals. All right. So before we get started, allow me to share some few facts about the Institute of Global Professionals for the sake of those participants who just came in and for those who have just joined in our group. So the Institute of Global Professional is actually a globally recognized academic or educational institution that serves students and community resources with the aim of providing a holistic social work and educational interventions with the aim of producing a top caliber and proficient today's young generations by enhancing the skills through the conduct and organizing of webinar like this, conducting of trainings, a series of trainings, both offline and online, backed by proficient and top caliber speakers and coaches from all over the world. Its mission actually is to empower people by enhancing their skills, their knowledge, their potentials, and their abilities. And that is in accordance with its mantra that's feed your skill, innovation, inspiration, and impact. All right? For every individual employee contributes to the success of an organization that we are working with. Of course, it is our goal to continuously improve the quality and productivity of our workforce. But without really understanding the factors that influence employee performance, then we can never expect to actually sustain the success that we're having in our own organization. Both leadership and employee should take into consideration their performance. If performance is suffering, then implementing a best practices for improving the quality and productivity as well as efficiency of our work can make a difference in our organization, whether it be professional level or personal level. And that's exactly the theme of this webinar for tonight's webinar. And so for that matter, we managed to invite two internationally acclaimed public speakers all the way from United Kingdom and from Singapore to shed light on this. All right. So for the participants, you'll have the opportunity to ask questions to our speakers by simply putting in your questions on the comment section below. And we're going to collect that one afterwards. And then we have to bring them up at the end of this webinar. And then your questions will actually be posted on the screen for our speakers to see the questions that you have in mind. It will be definitely posted on the screen. And then one of the highlights of this webinar that makes me so interesting is we're going to have a quiz competition. So everyone is entitled to participate. So all you have to do is you simply sit back, relax, enjoy, and keep on listening attentively to our speaker's presentation. All right? And certificate awaits those lucky participants who can answer all those questions that will be posted on the screen. All right. And also, we're giving out certificates for all those active participants. Active participants are those participants who actually pay attention to the speaker's presentation right from the start to the end of the presentation or to the end of this webinar. All right. So without further ado, let's get started. So at this juncture, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce to you our first speaker for tonight's webinar. Our first speaker actually is an internationally acclaimed public speaker and coach at the same time. And she's from United Kingdom. But for us to get to know more about her, all right, Allow me to share this video with you guys.
Hello, I'm Kylie and I'm a professional development coach. I didn't always start my career off in the coaching space. I was actually in the corporate world for about 13 years. I had initially qualified as a lawyer in the UK. I had studied my degree, my master's and my LPC. So I started off my career very ambitious. I wanted to help the world. I wanted to make an impact. I wanted to do my bit of good. And I thought law was the way to do that. And I started off my career very motivated. I wanted to take on any challenge or goal or task that was sent my way. But over a course of time, I did find myself becoming quite disillusioned with law, especially the company culture in law firms. And I found myself to be quite miserable in my workplace. So I sidestepped and I started working in financial institutions as an EA or in compliance roles. Well, eventually what happened was I found that I had lost my purpose, that why I was getting out of bed every morning, to help people, to make that impact, didn't exist anymore. I felt quite lost and stuck, and I was in a bit of a victim mentality where my career was concerned, thinking that why is this happening? I'm not sure how to go about changing this, and I wasn't taking accountability. So I hit a bit of a low point and decided that enough was enough. I had been such an ambitious and motivated professional to start with, and I couldn't believe that I'd got to a point where, work, all it had become was going to work to earn a pay packet and nothing more. So I put pen to paper one night and made a really brutal assessment of my strengths and my weaknesses, what I didn't want, what I was willing to compromise on and what I wasn't. And there were two things that stood out for me from that assessment. And that was communication and that was wanting to help people. So I did a little bit of research and I came across coaching. So I immediately enrolled on a coaching course and I got myself accredited. So I'm now an internationally accredited coach and I set up my own coaching business. And the wonderful thing, once I started to take this journey down the coaching road, was that it opened up this world for me. I started to realise what my capabilities were again, what my potential was. I'd lost sight of that. I'd started to doubt my competence, and I'd started to find that I had really low confidence because of that. And that isn't who I had originally been. I had taken a master's and an LPC and knew that I was very competent at one point, but somewhere along the way, I had lost that. And going down the coaching route, it's pushed me out of my comfort zone. I've had to take on new skills and learn new things. I've had to engage and take on tasks that I wouldn't normally do, speaking in public. I'm now doing a lot of public speaking and speaking to groups of 2,000 up to 8,000 people. And I'm having to develop myself. I'm having to push myself outside my comfort zone and I'm having to grow. And that's where you start to realise your potential and your capabilities. And that's what I needed. I needed this new challenge. And because of this, my self-belief has started to rocket. I know that I am capable. I know that I'm competent, and therefore my confidence has grown. And this is really key. There's a link between all of these individual feelings. So we start with our potential. What we think about our potential determines the actions we take. The actions we take determine the results we get. The results we get determine the belief that we have in ourselves. The belief we have in ourselves determines the amount of potential we have, or we think we have. So there's this loop. So I am so looking forward to talking to you today about potential. I hope there's plenty of knowledge and tips and questions that you get to soak up, and that we get to light this new performance inside of you. Because once you start to realise your capabilities and your potential, then the escalation in your performance will rocket. So as I say, I'm Kylie, I'm a professional development coach, and I am so looking forward to spending time with you this evening.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming our first speaker for tonight's webinar, uh, Miss Kylie Harrell, and she will be discussing to us about the first subtopic, and it's going to be uncovering your potential. Hello, Miss Kylie.
Hello.
Okay, take it away. Yes, yes. So she's a professional development coach. All right, because oh, really? What makes you ashamed of
That's
your
what I
voice?
used to think. That's what I used to think about myself. I used to have this belief that my voice, that my language, that my speech was awful. And I
Really?
allowed it to hold me back. So in the workplace, I didn't put my hand up. I didn't volunteer for projects. I never spoke up in a meeting. I would certainly not have volunteered to do a presentation like this. So I was born with a cleft palate, and where I am from in the United Kingdom, I've got a very obvious regional accent. And I believed that this accent and this voice that I had was going to irritate people, and that if I spoke up and that I got a bit tongue-tied, that I was going to embarrass myself, and that my seniors would think less than me. They would think that maybe I was incapable or that I was unintelligent. So
But
I
you're,
allowed these beliefs to hold me
I see. But you're doing a good job.
these beliefs that we have about ourselves are called limiting beliefs.
I see.
And limiting beliefs hold us back. They hold us back from our potential. They hold us back from what we think we're capable of. So I want to ask all of you tonight, what limiting beliefs do you have about yourself? What do you believe about yourself that is currently holding you back from your potential, from your capabilities? Because now I know what I'm capable of. I went back and I retrained. I'm now a coach and I speak to people daily. I'm doing talks and summits and seminars on a weekly basis. And I've had to push myself out of my comfort zone, and I have had to expand. I've had to do the thing that I was so uncomfortable with doing, and that's public speaking. So my question to you is, what are you doing? What are you saying to yourself at the moment that's holding you back? And it's such an important part of our development. So keep hold of that thought, keep it with you. Think about it as we're going through the presentation tonight. What's holding you back at the moment? So what I do want to do just before we get started is I want us to change our states. And what I mean by that is if you're sitting, I want you to stand. And if you're already standing, I want you to move to a different place. And literally for just 10 seconds, I want you to shake out. You can dance, you can do some star jumps, but I literally just want you to shake out so that you change your state. We're going to change our mindset. I want you to be as engaged and as energetic. You can sit back down now and take on as much as you possibly can. And if we can change our state and we can just short 10 seconds, that boosts our concentration, that boosts our mindset and our energy. And it's a great little tip while you're in the office. You know, if you're starting to feel a bit sluggish in the afternoon, you don't have to shake yourself out, but just go for a quick walk around the office and change your energy. So, potential. The first thing that we need to do, and I touched on it in my opening video, is take accountability. I spent too long in my corporate career in the victim zone. I think, if I'm completely honest, I thought that some magical job or magical role was going to land in my lap and that this meaningful, fulfilled career was just going to come to me. And I spent far too many years saying to people I felt lost, that I didn't know what to do about it. And then enough became enough, and I had to take accountability. It's your career, it's my career. It's our responsibility to find our purpose and what's going to make us happy in our professional lives. And during my time in the corporate world, I have been so shocked by the amount of professionals that feel unsatisfied and unfulfilled, to the extent that I have been in the company of such impressive professionals that have accomplished so many wonderful things, yet they've felt frustrated or they've felt like they've gone in the wrong direction of their career. And I know that I've certainly felt like that. So whether you're at the start, the middle, or the end of your career, whether you've just started a job or whether you've been in your job 5, 10, 15 years, ask yourself, am I reaching my potential? And ask yourself that all the time. It's not a one-off question. It's a permanent development. Am I reaching my potential? So I touched on this again in my opening video, but we're going to go into a little bit more in depth. The first thing I always recommend my clients do, and it's something that I certainly do, but is make a really truthful, brutal assessment of your skills and your performance. So start by writing down 2 or 3 of your strengths and 2 and 3 of your weaknesses. Now, this is going to require some real meaningful reflection. And to be honest, it's something that a lot of us don't like doing, especially when we're looking at our weaknesses. So I suggest you even maybe talk to colleagues or friends and find out their feedback. Having to look at your weaknesses, as I say, it's not something that we all particularly want to do because it's going to potentially throw up some fears for us. It's going to maybe highlight some blind spots that we might want to ignore. But the one thing that I can honestly assure you is I am so truly amazed by my clients, my colleagues, the capacity that we all have to improve once we know our shortcomings. And there's nothing wrong with that. We all have things that we're good at and we all have things that we're not so good at, but it's about always developing and building on them. Build on your strengths. There's always more that we can do. And those shortcomings, let's build on them. We can turn our strengths into our superpowers and we can develop our shortnesses too. So the next part of that assessment is I want you to truly think about what makes you happy. What do you enjoy? What puts a smile on your face? What do you get out of bed for in the morning? For me, there is some, as I said in the intro video, it was some very obvious things that were thrown up for me. Communication, the want to help other people and see them achieve. So my purpose kind of had like 3 elements for me. It was wanting people to have a great experience, I wanted to help people, and I wanted to see people achieve. So, not now, but after this session, I want you to do this. Pen to paper, your strengths, your weaknesses, the things that make you happy. And if we're looking at career, maybe look at the subject matters that you enjoy. Has it always been maths or science, writing, debating? What puts a smile on your face? What we want from this assessment is we want a really crystal clear idea of who you are, how you perform, and how you're driven. We want to be really, really clear on this version of you. So, ask yourself some questions when you're going through this assessment. Why is it that I do what I do? What thrills me about my current role or my current job? What does a good day at the office look like for me? Outside of my pay packet, what does success look like? What does it mean? What does real success feel like for me? And how do I want to make an impact on the world? What impact do I want to make on the world? So ask yourself these questions as you're going through this assessment to try and uncover the things that mean something to you, that are going to make you smile, that are going to make you happy. Now, once you've thought about that and you've started to get a clear idea of what your potential is or where you want to expand on your capabilities, you have to get out of your comfort zone. No growth or development happens in being comfortable. I spent too many years not challenging myself because I was worried about the failure. How would that make me feel? I feel hurt. I feel pain. And that situation that I was telling you of about my voice, about my language, about my speech, I allowed that in my legal career to hold me back. I felt inferior to seniors because I was worried that my speech would come across less than. I would sound less intelligent. Maybe I sounded common against other people. So I didn't challenge myself. But we all have the ability to overcome hurdles and obstacles. And it's when we start to challenge ourselves that we start to utilize our own untapped knowledge and resources. We venture outside of the familiar and wonderful things will happen. So I want to run through a little visualization coaching technique with you. I'm going to ask you a question. What would you attempt to do if you couldn't fail? Now, you can close your eyes if you want, if this is going to help you, but I want you to picture this. So whether it's a goal, a challenge, a dream, a desire, what would you attempt to do if you knew you couldn't fail? Now, I want you to visualize this. I want you to be in the moment where you've achieved this. Say it's a challenge, it's a goal. You've achieved this goal, this thing that you've been afraid of, this thing that you were worried about. You've achieved it. What can you see? Where are you? Where are you standing? Who's with you? Okay, really hold on to that vision. Picture it. You're there. That goal that you've been worried about, you've put yourself out, you've achieved it, you've succeeded. I want you to go to another level now. I want you to listen. What can you hear? What are you saying in this moment? What are you talking about? Are there any noises in the background? Now that you've visualized this, you've visualized achieving this goal, this thing that you thought was impossible. You've done it. You've succeeded. How do you feel? How do you feel in that moment of success, that moment of achieving it? What are you feeling? I want you to keep hold of that. You can open your eyes now if you had them shut. I want you to keep hold of that, okay? That goal, that challenge, we're going to come back to it later on in this presentation. So you remember that. Now, in the coaching world, we have a term called Stoic voluntary discomfort. Whew. A, that's a mouthful, and B, it doesn't sound very nice. But what this is, it's a concept of getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. As I said to you earlier, when we push ourselves outside of our comfort zones and start doing things that we don't normally feel confident about or comfortable with, that's when we start to see development and we realize what our capabilities are. So we don't have to start big and bold. We could start with personal challenges. So for example, things that a lot of us don't feel comfortable with are cold showers, going with no coffee for the whole day, no car heat when it's cold, sleeping on the floor. Take on maybe 1 or 2 of those challenges in a week. Do something that makes you feel uncomfortable and start to make that pattern. Have those habits of doing things that make you uncomfortable, and then you can build up to the ultimate, that challenge. In the workplace, we want the mental and the physical fortitude to weather the storms. So what I mean by that is we're going to have times where we feel stress, we're burnt out, we're overwhelmed. There's a project coming up and we just don't know whether we're capable, or we don't know how we're going to tackle this. And you need the mental ability and fortitude to get through that, to push yourself through those comfort zones to take on those challenges. So these little practices will help develop that. It's not easy. It doesn't happen overnight. But try it. Push yourself outside of your comfort zone. Start getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. And as I say, some of those little personal practices like taking a cold shower are just ways of building those habits. Now, once that you have committed, so once you've got this goal, this challenge, you need to be committed to it. So earlier, I was asking you to think of something that you would attempt to do if you knew you couldn't fail. Well, let's make that a reality. Let's turn that dream, that desire, let's turn it into something that we're actually going to work towards. But you need to be committed. When I decided to become a coach, I had a choice. I could either become a coach and commit and execute that, or I could not commit and I could miss the opportunity. Now, if we look at this in a workplace environment, let's say your boss has given you a new challenge, or one of your seniors has given you a new project. There's several ways you could look at this. You could say, this is a great idea. I'm committed. And that's the best outcome. Your boss is going to see you as a team player. It's going to build trust. Your capabilities are going to grow. Your potential is going to grow because you're doing something that you wouldn't necessarily have wanted to have done. Now, let's say this new project, you think it's a great idea, but you don't commit to it. All you do is you obstruct yourself from achieving your full potential. Your boss is potentially going to lose trust in you, and you're not going to be seen as a team player. Let's say this project, you think it's a bad idea and you don't commit. Well, that's the worst case scenario. And in that case, you're wasting your team's time, yours time, and your boss probably won't buy into any future ideas that you've got, and you're not going to see yourself grow. You're going to shrink into the background. There's no development to be had there. Now, let's say that you see this project as a bad idea, but you still commit to it. Well, this is still a great outcome because your boss is going to see your level of commitment. He or she is going to see that you've taken an approach that even though you don't think this is a good idea, you're going to challenge yourself. You're going to try and make this work. You're going to give it your best shot. And that is going to encourage your team. It's going to build confidence in yourself. And you're going to see yourself push yourself outside your comfort zone, especially if you think it's a bad idea, yet you're still trying it out. And our relationships with our colleagues are so important to our development and our potential, because our colleagues are potentially going to be the connections that help us work towards our goals. So how do you communicate with your colleagues? Do you talk about the goals and the challenges on your desk? Do you talk and encourage each other to push each other outside of your comfort zones, take on new work, take on new ideas? So think about that. How do you interact with your colleagues and how are you communicating with them? So, negative talk. This goes back to how I started this presentation. I used to tell myself all the time, you've got a horrible voice, your language isn't adequate, people are going to think that you're common, people are going to think that you're stupid. And I used to tell myself these awful things and have this terrible dialogue with myself. Our inner dialogue is so key and important to how we view things. As I said earlier in my intro, there's a link. We've got what we think about our potential determines the results. Sorry, I'll start again. What we think about our potential determines the actions we take. The actions we take determine the results we get. The results we get determine the self-belief we have. The self-belief we have determines our potential. And we're in this loop. So when we're talking to ourselves negatively, we're eating into our self-belief. We need to talk to ourselves kindly. We need to be encouraging rather than attacking ourselves for the mistakes that we make. A positive mindset makes it so much easier to talk to. It makes it so much easier to learn from. If we've got a positive mindset, we're going to learn far more easily. We're going to boost our confidence and we're going to eliminate that negative language. So let's take a closer look at that negative language. I've definitely been guilty of saying, I can't. Without even trying, I would say, I can't. So how about we say, how could we? That project that's coming up, that challenge that's coming up, how could we attempt this? What could we be doing? So be really conscious of the language you're using. Stop beating yourself up, stop saying bad things to yourself, and forget I can't. We need problem solution language. We need that language where it allows us to find solutions to any upcoming problems. How can I? How could I? So Self-belief. Boost your knowledge. Competence equals confidence. We need to be learning. If we have knowledge on something, if we feel that we're competent in a subject matter, we could talk to anyone at any level about that subject. So a surefire way of being certain of what we're doing is to learn more. You know, make sure that you're aware of why particular practices and processes happen in the workplace. Learn about them. And when I became a coach, I started to read outside of my materials. I started watching videos outside of my materials, started talking to people outside of my community in order to get a wider spectrum of my subject matter. So boost your knowledge. There's always room for improvement. We can always learn new skills, and those new skills will enhance our ability at our jobs, but they will also boost our confidence. So a few tips or tricks here. If there's someone in your workplace that does something really successful, you're really impressed with how they do that, then take it on board. Try to implement that yourself. Maybe attend more seminars, but take on this challenge. For the next couple of weeks, read a new article, read a new book, look at a new video on YouTube about a particular subject matter. And then once you've done that, talk to people about it. Get excited. Try to share that new knowledge that you've just got with other people. So take on that challenge. Read something new or watch something new and boost your knowledge. Now, this seems really obvious, but repeat. Practice is the cornerstone of success. For example, when I was learning my new coaching skills, I built up a portfolio of clients, put in extra hours so that I could develop my skills, I could learn what a successful coaching session looked like, that I could develop my coaching style. There's going to be mistakes, but they're not failures, they are learning curves. That is where we start to grow, we start to build on our capabilities, learning from those mistakes. The thing about repetition is that it's that process of mastering what we thought was impossible. So repeat, repeat, repeat. And the wonderful thing about practicing, as I said earlier, it's also about correcting those mistakes and learning from them. So whether you're doing something for the first time or it's the 100th time you're doing something, ask yourself this: how could I improve on it next time? How could I make this a little better next time? What could I do differently next time? Community. Now, what I mean about this when I'm talking about self-belief is finding a community. It doesn't have to be big, it can be small. In the coaching world, I'm very lucky that I have a community, different communities that I belong to. And in these communities, we share our knowledge and our experiences. So we've got the ability to learn and develop, but it's a place where people encourage each other and they support each other. You want to be in a community where people support you through the challenges, they champion your wins, and you've got this ability to share experiences and learn. So whatever your job is, or whatever you're studying, or whatever you're interested in, find a community in that subject area, or in that niche, or in that career. And if you're not sure where to start, then you've got some great places like Facebook or LinkedIn that have always got, you know, professional communities and communities in whatever particular area or job role you have. But if you don't find something on those platforms, how about you take on the challenge and you start it yourself? Talk to a couple of colleagues in your company, in your workplace, that you feel comfortable with. Talk to them about challenges and goals that you could all work towards and how you could support each other. Share different knowledge that you've got. So maybe you can create that space if you can't find it. It just takes a couple of people to create that community. But the self-belief and the confidence that that will give you will do wonders for your development and ergo your potential. Now, my next slide is about reframe. Now, this might sound a little odd, but how we react to things in the workplace has an impact on how we develop our potential. So, if there's a situation in the workplace that's causing you stress or upset, it is making you feel uncomfortable, that it's even making you maybe wonder about your own capabilities, you need to be able to get out of your own mind about it. You don't want to take that on. You don't want to take that home. You don't want that to affect your health. You need to be able to see it from different angles. So ask yourself, how would someone else deal with this current situation? So when I'm talking about a reframe, let's think about the bad, good boss situation. So say you've got this boss and he comes into work and he screams and he rants and he raves, and it's having an impact on you. It's making you nervous. It's making you anxious. It's making you wonder whether you're capable at your job. Now, we don't want this person to be allowed to get away with their bad behavior. That's not what I'm saying. But give this situation a story so that in the moment you find calm, you're able to manage your stress levels and how you're going to navigate this situation. So, for example, the bad boss situation. Maybe we can attribute a story to the bad boss. So we could tell ourselves that this bad boss, this shouty boss, he or she's got this horrible home life and they've got no other way of letting off steam or their frustration. And that's why they come into the office and they shout and they create a scene, because they've got no other outlet for it. Now, I'm not excusing their behavior, but what that does for you is in the moment, it allows you to take the stress away. It allows you to stay calm. It allows you to stay focused. It allows you to have a perspective on the situation and how you're going to navigate it. And how you conduct yourself in these situations and how you can navigate your way through it is going to work towards your development in the workplace, because your colleagues are going to see how you handle these situations. Your bosses and seniors are going to see how you develop and handle these situations, and how you're developing in these situations goes towards your potential. Okay? You then potentially have the ability to educate and talk to other colleagues about this. So think about that reframe at work. It's not about letting people off on bad behavior, but what can you do to bring calm to your day? How can you see things from a different angle? How would someone else deal with this situation? Okay, so welfare, again, seems very obvious, but taking care of our mental and physical well-being so that you can commit to this goal, to this challenge, to this new job, to this project. That's how you're going to reach your ultimate performance. You want to be able to give the absolute best to this challenge, to this goal, to your career as the overall. So mental space is really important. So potentially think about things such as meditation, coaching, exercise. What hobbies do you enjoy? How can you have that outlet a couple of times a week? Having that ability to recharge and have a break, it's not laziness, it's productive. If you can go to work every morning and be re-energized, renewed, ready, that is far more productive than being in a bad headspace. And again, that leads on to health in terms of sleep and diet and exercise. And again, I know that's not always easy for people because of maybe particular medical conditions, etc. But you know, that sleep, for example, that ability to recharge is so important to how productive we are, the energy levels. And this is all a package. It all interlinks to our professional development and the potentials and capabilities that we see, how we're going to challenge ourselves, keep pushing ourselves out of those comfort zones. That takes energy. So We spoke about this goal earlier, this thing that you were dreaming about, whether it was a dream, a desire, a goal, a challenge. In order to make it come to fruition and see it as a reality, we need to look at goals and goal settings and how that works. So we need to make the goal as attainable as possible, realistic as possible. And the way we do that is we break it down. So to avoid the overwhelm, and that's where people start to become demotivated, we want to break the goal down. So we've got this ultimate goal, this ultimate shiny goal over here, but we want to break it down so that it's attainable. So we're going to have steps. So I'm a bit of a dinosaur and I love things to be written down. So what I do is, for myself, is I actually have daily goals that I write down. And then what I can see is each day I tick those daily goals off. And by the end of the week, I can see what I've achieved. Sometimes for a goal, it might just be a weekly goal. I do that a lot with my clients. We have a weekly goal to work towards. So ask yourself some of the following questions. Where am I now and where do I want to be? Where do I want to be in a year's time? Where do I think my company wants me to be in a year's time? These are quite important questions when thinking about the goal that you want to set for yourself. Now, obviously, I've just spoken a little bit about those baby steps, that growing week by week by week to the ultimate goal. So you should have these short-term goals and these long-term goals. The long-term goals, that's the big picture. That's the ultimate thing that we're working toward, the ultimate dream, the ultimate desire. The short-term goal will keep us motivated because we can see ourselves achieve. We can see the progression week on week by week. And also celebrate your wins. So each week when you see yourself tick those goals off and see yourself achieve and you see that progression, treat yourself. Whether that's just on a Sunday, you get an hour to have a cup of tea and a bath, or you get to buy that chocolate bar you've gone without all week. It doesn't have to be something crazy, but just something silly to acknowledge the progress and the progression that you've made. When I started my coaching business, for example, the ultimate goal was to launch a coaching business and to have a proper business launch. So for each week leading up to that ultimate goal of launching my business, I had a separate goal each week. So one week it might be just to pick some brand colors. Another week it might be to develop some content. Another week it might be to look at some policies. But each week you see yourself obtaining those goals and you see yourself working towards the ultimate goal. Now be flexible with those goals. For example, you don't want to be disappointed if the ultimate goal has to shift a little bit. We can't predict the future, so things may come up. We may need to adapt. Now, when I was launching my coaching business, for example, as I was just saying to you, I was setting myself weekly goals beforehand, and one of them was a website. Now, that website had many technical difficulties and issues along the way that needed to be ironed out. And that might have meant, for example, the launch date that I had in mind for my coaching business would have to have been postponed. I mean, thankfully it wasn't. But I was quite flexible in my mindset that if that ultimate date had to be postponed, that it was okay. No, I wasn't failing. It was a learning curve. You know, maybe next time give yourself a bit more time when it comes to website design. Like, it was a learning point. But don't let yourself be disheartened. Hopefully that ultimate goal pays off as and when and how you thought it was. But please be flexible with yourself so that you don't feel any disappointment towards any changes that need to take place. And the last thought that I want to leave you on is legacy. Now, this might seem a bit odd talking about legacy. Some of you may be at the end of, so some of you might be at the start of your career and thinking about the end is far from where you are. And some of you may be just in a position where you don't really want to think about that. But it's actually really important to your development and shaping where you want to go, and ergo understanding your potential and what you're capable of. Ask yourself these questions. What do you want to leave behind? What version of yourself do you want to be remembered by? What impact do you want to leave behind? What do you want to achieve long term? So ask yourself those questions. Think about it. The answers that you give to yourself are potentially going to shape what you want to do, potentially going to shape the things that you find value and meaning in, and therefore how you want to spend your time in your career. So they are very important questions. They're the end goal. It's what we're all working towards. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have come towards the end of my presentation today. What I do want to ask you all is to recap some of the things that we've been through. I want you to think about that brutal assessment. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What motivates you? What gets you out of bed every morning? What puts a smile on your face? Think about what you want, and then try to create a challenge out of it. Try to create some goals out of it, and do some things that feel uncomfortable. How can you push yourself in a way that you wouldn't normally do? And at work, as I say, think about community. Talk to your colleagues. If there's not a community that you already belong to, talk to your colleagues about how you can encourage each other, how you can support each other, what information you can share with each other, how you can push yourself outside of your comfort zone and be accountable to each other to make sure it happens. And take on that challenge of think about boosting your knowledge. Read something new this week and then talk about it, and talk about it with pride and confidence. So I hope that's been helpful. I hope you've got some information and you've got some light out of today's presentation. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn if you've got any questions, and I will be very happy to answer them. So God bless.
All right, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Our first speaker, that's Kylie Harrell, for her very intensive discussion on uncovering your potential. You know what, Kylie, believe it or not, I'm struggling on finding the right words to describe how fantastic your presentation was. You know, had it not been due for lack of time, I could have listened to you all night long, because your topic is so, I mean, your delivery is so engaging that I lost all track of time. And I hope our participants are feeling the same way. And do expect that a lot of questions will be asked by our participants, because your topic is so relatable, and something that can really affect each and every one of us here. No wonder you are a perfect coach, a an effective personal coach. All right.
Thank
So
you.
with that, on behalf of uh, the Institute of Global Professionals, we would like to express our healthy thanks for that very great presentation. All right.
Yeah, I
Thank
mean, it's
you.
something I'm so passionate about. So thank you for the opportunity today. It's very appreciated.
Yes, and we look forward to having you again for another series of webinar in the days to come. I hope you wouldn't disappoint us.
Absolutely.
That's great, and I hope that our participants are now guided on the ways on how could they possibly unleash their potential. I love your discussion on a sort of self-introspection, wherein you have to do a self-assessment and to avoid those limiting beliefs that's holding you back for you to be able to reach your your goal in life. And also I love your visualization exercise. That's why I'm so I'm pretty sure our Participants for tonight are so guided for them to unleash and discover their full potential. And you know what? Your topic is so demandable nowadays because a lot of people around are experiencing traumatic depression and some are under stress, brought about by different circumstances. I mean, your service is so dependable. And anyway, again, thank you so much for that very, very great presentation. All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. All right. So again, I have to remind our participants that you can still, uh, I mean, type in your questions in the comment. Moving right along, it's my pleasure to introduce to you our second speaker for tonight's webinar. Our second speaker is another phenomenal international public speaker and coach at the same time, I guess. And he is from Singapore. And again, to know more about our second speaker, let's all watch this video.
Hi everyone, my name is Thomas. I'm an international coach, speaker, and wealth planner. And today, I'm going to share with all of you a highly valued life skill: how to communicate, to connect with those around you. You see, through my experience of leading teams and interacting with clients, what I realized is that having strong communication skill can be a game changer, especially communication skills that allow us to develop strong and authentic connection with those around us. With this communication skill, you will be able to lead teams, you will be able to convey across powerful messages, and you will be able to open new doors for you to receive numerous opportunities. And hence, in today's masterclass, I'm going to share with you the step-by-step process, the different applicable and relatable strategies, and the solid systems of what you can use in order to develop such effective and powerful communication skills. So I see you there, and it's going to be an amazing experience.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we are very fortunate in having us here, Sir Thomas Chen, to give us a discussion on the topic communicate to connect. Sir Chen, the floor is yours now. Hello, Sir Chen. I think your microphone is muted.
All right, thank you so much.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. All right, before I begin, I would love to invite all of you to once again thank our first speaker, Kylie, because I feel that the sharing is so amazing. I myself have learned so much from her. I was visualizing through the exercise she shared, and I'm certain they can help us to unleash our peak potential. All right, so do give her a thank you. Throughout the session, I've been reading the chat. I love how all of you are so active on the chat. This is the way to learn, you know. Keep the engagement up, keep the energy up, and all of you are going to have an amazing time. All right, at this point in time, I'd love to share my slides. So the facilitators behind help to arrange it accordingly. All right, I see it perfectly. Okay, before I begin, I would love to ask all of you, if you can see me and if you can hear me clearly, do input into the chat. YES. Yes, because I don't want any of you to miss out anything. All right, so I will be keeping close track right here. If you can see me and hear me, do key to the chat YES. Yes, so that I can ensure all of you are good to go. All right, I see all the yes coming in. That is great. Okay, so today I will be sharing about how we can communicate to connect with those around us, right? So before that, I will give a short introduction about myself. I think the hosts have done an amazing work, but just to get all of you to know me a little bit better. So my name is Thomas and I come all the way from Singapore, and professional speaking has been one of my portfolios. So I share on topics such as finance, business, as well as highly valued life skill. And today I'm going to share with you the life skill of how you can communicate with others effectively and powerfully. Right, so before the COVID period, I've been holding a lot of physical sharing, and right now, because of the COVID period, I have transited most of my sharing online, and I'm really grateful for the opportunities which have been provided to me, such as this opportunity itself, because I truly love to share with all of you what I know, and hopefully what I know will be able to impact you one way or another, right? Are we ready to go? If you are ready, key to the chat. YES, yes. This presentation is going to be highly energetic. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions because this is a workshop, which means you must work as well. So work with me and we are going to have an amazingly enriching session, all right? So the first question I would love to ask all of you is, what is communication, right? Key to the chat. What is communication? You do not need to give me a whole paragraph, just a few keywords of what do you think communication is, right? I'm keeping close track of the chat, so no slacking around because I want all of you to just put in all your thoughts and answer. This is how we can truly learn together, right? What is communication? Come, keep the answer coming in, right? Right, I'm still seeing a lot of yes, which is great, but what, in your opinion, is communication? Engagement, I see from Alex, two-ways exchange of ideas, sharing with each other ideas. Wow, all of you are amazing. Exchanging of ideas, understanding, right. Exchanging information. So all of you get the gist of it. Essentially, it is a form of exchange. So personally, for me, I define communication as the act of conveying across information. And why is communication important? Why is this simple act of conveying message and information across important? Well, if you were to truly think about it, every single day we are communicating one way or another. And there are many different forms of communication. Whenever I talk about communication, most people would just be thinking about speaking, right? Verbal communication. But there are so many other areas in terms of communication as well, which I'm going to share with all of you today. But before that, let's establish the reason of why communication is important. Why should I work on my communication skills? I could be spending my time on other areas, but why communication? Well, because communication skills bring about a wealth of advantages for your personal and professional life. And just to list a few examples, for example, those of you who are leaders out there, be it in a corporate world, be it in school, or be it in a family itself, when you want to lead a group of people, you need to be able to communicate well. Agree? So that they know your instructions, they know your directions, they know your goals, and when they have that clarity, that's how you can lead them in an effective manner. And of course, to deliver a powerful presentation. When we deliver a presentation, it is not just one way, it is two-way. And when it is two-way, communication is involved. So if you want your stakeholders to buy into your ideas during your presentation, you need to work on communication skills as well. And of course, closing business deals. For us to be able to close business deals, we need to know the pain point, the purpose, the pleasure seeked by the clients itself. And that can only be achieved, that understanding and depth can only be achieved through communication skills, because communication also involves asking the right question. And that is all about sales itself, isn't it? Asking the right question. All right? And engaging in productive conversations. When we converse with people, sometimes conversations can steer out of the way, or sometimes it can be very blurred. And that's because the communication skills is not quite there yet. But when we are effective communicators, the conversations will be productive. We know the end goal, we know what we have to achieve, and during that conversation, we will achieve it, right? Facilitate fruitful discussion, during a team project, or when you're working in a group, when discussion is needed. If you want it to be productive and fruitful, communication is involved. And strong relationship, be it family, friends, partners, business partners, communication is involved. And there are so many more that I cannot cover in this short presentation itself. But the whole idea that I want all of you to establish is communication skills is a game changer. Because when you know that it is certainly very important, that's where we will be motivated to improve on it, right? Okay, so earlier on, I mentioned there are many different types of communication, and it is essential for us to be aware of these different types of communications, because we are conveying different sorts of information through this platform itself. And if we are not aware of them, we may convey the wrong information. Agree? And that's why the first step is to have awareness and clarity. Alright, so the first one is what most of us would know, verbal and vocal communication. But what's the difference between verbal and vocal? Well, verbal refers to the words we use. Are the words very sharp? Are the words negative? Are the words not encouraging? Or are the words motivating? Are the words inspiring? Are the words elevating? So the words we use is very important because it gives the audience a perception of who you are. And not only that, vocal, right? The tone we use. Do we sound very angry? Do we sound very lethargic? Or do we sound very sad and depressing? Right? Or do we sound energetic and positive and optimistic? You see, these different ways convey across different messages. Agreed? And think about it, we are all speaking very often, conversations we have with our friends, phone calls, interview, presentation, workshops, all of this requires our voice. And hence, we need to have the awareness of the difference in vocal and verbal so that we can adjust accordingly. Agree? All right, so the second one is non-verbal. That's right. You can communicate even without voice at all. And in fact, research has shown a bulk of the communication come from the non-verbal itself, right? Your eye contact, the way you look at people. If I speak with my eyes looking down, then it does not command a very strong presence, doesn't it? So that's why I need to be constantly looking at all of you, establishing that eye contact. Not only that, my facial expression, you want to put on a light smile so you can give a more welcoming message to everyone. The posture, if you want to give a more confident message, you want to exude that conviction, then you need to have an upright posture rather than a slouching posture. And in fact, your hand gestures as well. You want to have an open hand gestures to show that you are very welcoming to people. And that's why non-verbal actions is also part of communication itself, right? All right, and next we have visual. Visual, that's right. So on a personal level, visual includes the way we dress. If we want to look more formal, then perhaps a shirt and blazer, like what I'm doing. If you want to look more casual, then perhaps a t-shirt, depending on, once again, the message that you want to convey across. But more than just that, for those of you who are running businesses and doing presentations, all of this includes visual cues that we need to look at. It must be aesthetically pleasing. It must bring across a positive message. It must have congruency with the vibes that you want to give, right? Visuals are also part of this. And finally, we have written. Yes, the way you write can also influence the way you communicate. So for those of you who use WhatsApp text or any version of text, if you were to notice, the way people text can really influence your perception of them. Someone who seems very energetic in the text, using a lot of positive words, using emoticons, you tend to have a closer connection with that person compared to someone who texts in a cold manner, just a one-word reply or just a full stop. And that's why the way we write, the way we text is also conveying message and information across, right? So it is something for us to be aware of. Okay, so now that I've shared the modes of communication, what are the styles of communications that we have? Okay, I'm going to touch on this very briefly due to the limited time, so bear with me. All right, firstly, we have the passive style. So passive style are for people who tend to be less vocal. They don't really prioritize their own opinion because they feel, hey, perhaps the opinions of others matter more. I should take a step back. So that is passive. Right? We have aggressive, people who are very vocal, people who want their opinions to be heard, people who feel their opinions are of a higher status than the other people, right? They matter more. Those are aggressive. All right? And we have passive aggressive, people who know their opinions matter, but they won't go it so uprightly in front. What they will do is they will usually take some detour to try to bring across the message in a way that at the end of the day, people would know that their opinions still matter, but they don't go in with such a strong force, but rather try to navigate through the conversation to establish their opinions. All right, and finally, we have assertive. Assertive refers to the communication which prioritize both parties, because they really believe that both opinions matter, come to a conclusion together, be interactive, and have an open conversation. Right? So these are the 4 different styles: passive aggressive, and assertive. All right, and so the question for all of you is, which style is the best? Come, key into the chat. Which style is the best? I'll be looking from here. Which style is the best? Right? For those of you who forget what are the 4 different styles, it is passive, aggressive, passive aggressive, and assertive. So let me know which style to you is the best. I'm going to be looking right here. Assertive from Teresa. Assertive from Praise. Assertive from Melina. Anyone else? Eunice assertive, Ruby assertive. Well, wow, I'm seeing a lot of assertive, but this is actually a trick question because it depends on the situation itself. And let me explain to you why. Because each of the communication styles has its own place. Let me give you an example. For example, if we have a very aggressive boss, right? We can't be aggressive as well, or there will be an argument. Sometimes assertiveness doesn't work because the boss wants their opinions to be heard. So perhaps when in face of an aggressive person, we have to be passive, take a step back so that their mind will be open and we can introduce our ideas easier. But of course, there are other situations. For example, when you are also leading a team of people, but they are very new, they have no experience, and the deadline of the project is very near. Then you need to be slightly aggressive in your point of view because you are the experienced one. They have no experience, time is running out, so they just need to follow the instructions or the mission would fail. Agree? So in that situation, perhaps an aggressive style will be more effective. And of course, in other situations, passive aggressive. For example, when we are having a negotiation with our competitors, and our competitors have the priority of taking a cut from us, then assertive won't really be a strategy because either way, a connection can be formed, an agreement can be formed because their priority is to get a cut. Then you have to be a little bit passive aggressive in establishing your stance so that you will not get eaten by your competitors. And of course, like all of you say, assertive, it definitely has its place when it comes to teamwork, team discussion, going towards a cause. Assertiveness matters. But at the end of the day, the idea that I want to establish to all of you is that it depends on the situation. Every situation requires a different style. So you want to adjust the style accordingly. There can also be a mixture of the style depending on the situation. The whole idea is to really have an awareness of which is most effective for which situation. Good. All right, I'm seeing the chat exploding with energy and I love this. Come, keep it coming, all right? Okay, so now, what is effective communication? We have talked a lot about communication, the different styles, the different modes, but how do we exactly define the effectiveness of communication? Well, for me, what I would say is that the information that we want to convey across is received and understood by the other party in a manner that is both accurate and efficient. Accurate and efficient. What do I mean by that? Accurate meaning when I convey A plus B equals C, the other party will receive the message as A plus B equals C, not A plus B equals D. That is inaccurate, right? And what do I mean by efficient? If I convey across the message A plus B equals C, if I can convey it across in 5 minutes and I take 4 minutes, then I'm efficient. But if I take 5 hours just to convey that same message, then I'm not efficient. So to me, effective communication is being able to convey across the information in a manner that is both accurate and efficient. So this is what we want to work towards to. Think about it. Sometimes during a meeting itself, I'm not sure any of you have experienced group corporate meetings. Sometimes it can take 3 to 4 hours and no conclusion is being arrived at. I'm not sure any of you have ever experienced this before. And sometimes that's because the communication within the team is not effective, right? They could have cut down on a lot of unnecessary details. They could have established understanding right from the start. They could have a better mode of communication. But there is always a learning journey. So if you want to be an effective communicator, the information must be conveyed accurately and efficiently. Okay? And to really deep dive into it, if you want your information to be conveyed across accurately and efficiently, it must achieve these 7 C's. Allow me to elaborate more on it. All right? So the 7 C's are clear, correct, complete, concrete, concise, courteous, and customized. Okay? I will touch on each briefly. Clear, meaning clarity and understandability. Does the other party know what you are speaking about, or is it too complicated and too convoluted? Right? I'm going to share with you some tips on how you can achieve all this. But right now, you must know that your communication must achieve these 7 C's, starting from clearness. Right? We want to be clear in the way we speak, in the words we use, in the instructions we give. Okay? And secondly, it must be correct. If we are the creator of the information, this is not that much of a problem. But the problem usually comes when we are the third party, when we are trying to relay the information to someone else. Then we must ensure that the information we are relaying from is really the information that they want to relay. So always confirm, double confirm, and triple confirm. And linked closely to correctness is also completeness. Sometimes informations are being left out. So you want to make sure the whole package is there, right? Concrete. When you are sharing about some ideals, about some concepts, is it well substantiated? Does it have proof? Does it have evidence? These are things that you need to work on so that it elevates your credibility, right? Concise. Remember earlier on I mentioned that effective communication has to be efficient. So you don't want to go one whole big round just to go back to the same point, you know. You want to be concise in your instructions, in your content. Courteous. The way you deliver, is it tactful? Is it nice? Is it positive? Because if it's done not a courteous manner, even if you have a good message, the mind of the audience will be closed, because the first thing we have to do is to establish that rapport, and we can only establish rapport effectively by being courteous. You know, learn basic courtesy, have an opening ear, a positive mindset, an outreaching attitude. These are all elements of courtesy, right? And finally, customize, which I'm going to elaborate more. Our content, it has to be customized if you truly want to connect with the audience, right? It really based on the situation. There's this saying that it is not what you say, but how you say it. And I would politely disagree with it, because it is not just how you say it. It is more than that. It is what, who, when, where, why, and how. Think about it. Nowadays, people are very smart. So even if you just use words to beautify the concept, they would know something is not right. And not just that, it really matters in terms of the different areas of the situation itself, right? The what being the content that you are sharing, The who are you sharing to? What's the demographics? If I'm sharing to a group of seniors, then sharing about millennials concept may not outreach to them. So I need to use concept that they can outreach to, right? The timing, the situation, is it the right timing? Because the message sent at the wrong timing will also be a wrong message. The location, where am I delivering this at? For example, right now, I'm doing this presentation in front of the virtual platform. So I have to adjust accordingly, use slides, put it in a way that is effective to outreach, because these are all part of the location that I have to take into account of. The why. What's the purpose? For example, today is to truly value add all of you with communication skills. That is my why. And the delivery, how am I delivering it? Right now, I'm doing it in a way that's engaging, it's two-way, it is fun, and this is my delivery, because I know that the best way to learn is when we have fun at the same time, right? So these are things that you have to customize accordingly into the situation. Right? Perhaps if I'm doing a corporate training right now, I will use a different style because the situation is different. All right? Okay, so right now I'm going to share with you 10 effective practices for effective communication. But just to make sure everyone is still good, key into the chat. Great if you are ready to go to this second part. GREAT. Great. Let's keep the energy going. Let's keep the energy going. Let's keep it going. GREAT. I'm seeing a lot of yes. I want a GREAT. Keep the energy going. Put it all the way up. All right, that's great. I see all the grades coming in. Okay, so for the next part, I'm going to share with you 10 effective practices that you can implement right away so that you can be effective communicators. Yeah? All right, so firstly, begin with the end in mind. Whenever you communicate something across, always start by asking yourself, what is the end objective? Because if you don't have an end objective, you don't have a clear direction, and you will steer all the way without knowing what is the end point, right? So what you want to do is to ask yourself, what is the end goal you want to achieve? Is it to build relationship? Is it to sell across an idea? Is it to establish your reputation? What is the end goal? Okay, so just to give you an example, for example, those of you who are in sales industry, right? The end goal is you want to close a sale, right? Because you believe that that is suitable for the customer, that is of value add to the customer. So from there, you need to work backwards so you know how to control the communication flow, right? To close the sales, you need to explain the sales process, or else they don't even know how to buy, even though if they are interested. All right, and to explain the sales process, you need to first assess the budget. Is it within their budget or out of the budget? And even before that, you need to understand what is their needs, so you know how to recommend accordingly. And can you see, by working backwards, starting from the end goal, you will have a clear path forward, right? So before every communication, conversation, or presentation, ask yourself, what is the end goal? Okay? All right, practice number 2. Effective communication comes from effective learning. All right, a lot of people think about communication being talking and talking and talking, but that is not very accurate, because a part of it comes from listening. In fact, when being interviewed, one of an amazing leader, Nelson Mandela, replied to the question of why he is such a great leader. And he mentioned that when he was young, he went to a tribal meeting with his father, because his father was a tribal chief. So what he noticed is that the father will always be the last one to speak. And why is it so? Because by being the last one to speak, it allows us to have all these different advantages. It allows us to take note of what the important information is. Because if we are speaking and speaking and speaking, we don't have that attention to take in information. It also gives us a clearer and bigger picture when we gather information from different sources and different people, right? And with more information, we can curate a more effective response. And with a more effective response, we can communicate across what we want to communicate. And not only that, by giving yourself some space, you stay emotionally professional, especially in situations that there are a lot of emotions, and sometimes when emotions are high, our communication tends to suffer. But when we practice more listening than speaking, we have more space to remain emotionally professional. And not only that, it allows other people to feel acknowledged and respected. Because imagine if you are with someone and the person just keeps speaking and speaking and speaking and speaking, and you not having any opportunity to speak, you don't really feel acknowledged, you don't really feel respected. Am I right? And that's how other people feel when we treat them in such manner. So always practice active listening, because that is an important part of communication itself. Okay, practice number 3, connect with commonalities, right? Connect with commonalities. How are you similar from the other people out there? Okay, if you want someone to like you, they must feel that they are just like you, and that's why you have to build that rapport. Such as me building a rapport right from the start, getting to connect with all of you, asking all of you questions, getting to know all of you better. All of these are part of rapport building. And something common we have is that we want to become better, which is why all of you are spending time today with me to be part of this, because you want to learn and become better. And this is something that is common with me. So I will always emphasize on that. And that's what you want to emphasize on when you are communicating with others. Are there any commonalities? Do you work in the same place? If you work in the same place, you can discuss a bit about it. Do you have the same profession, right? You can exchange professional tips. Do you have the same passion, pursue an interest together? You can talk about an interest, be it sports, be it cooking, be it reading, regardless of what it is. Or do you have the same pain? For example, right now we are all feeling the same pain, right? Trapped at home because of the COVID period. That is a pain that we can connect with. Or do we have the pleasure of learning, right? Or do we have principles? What are the common things? By establishing the common things, you build that connection. But for you to even find out what is that appealing common thing they have with you, you need to actively listen. Which is why before this, I talk about active listening, so that you know the common points and you can establish the rapport, right? Okay, and more than just that, if you want to have some language of empathy to truly let the person know that you can understand them, say things such as, hey, me too, I am experiencing this right now, or I can totally relate with that, or I can feel that way, or what a coincidence, that is my idea as well, or yes, I understand what you are saying, or I agree with your idea. See, these are ways that you can show the other person that you are just like them. Good, amazing, right? Immediately feel that rapport, right? Awesome. Do practice it. Okay, and this is also part of the strategy of commonality. I call it the mirroring communication strategy, and this is slightly more advanced, which is look at the way the person speak in terms of the verbal, non-verbal, any ways of communication, and follow it closely, because they will feel like they are just like you. So if I am speaking someone who is sitting in a more casual manner like this, and if that person is sitting like this and I'm doing this, it can't really connect, right? Because he's sitting so casually and yet I'm so uptight. So if that person is sitting casually, I will also sit casually, so that we can have a casual conversation, because that is me mirroring him, the way he communicates. So you do not need to have 100% mirroring. That will be like an exact replica, and I think that's impossible. We are humans. But mirror some areas, start to build more and more commonality, and they will feel closer and closer towards you. All right, practice number 4. Vulnerability builds authority. Many of us, we love to put up a brave front, right? A great front, the strong front of ours. And I understand, right? That is human nature itself. But as we progress, what we realize is that by showing our vulnerable side, it allows us to connect with people better, because people would feel that we are open. People will feel that we are being genuine to them. People will feel that we are willing to share with them. And at the end of the day, even if you show people your weakness and they don't accept it, so what? Because it is better to be rejected for something that you are instead of accepted for something that you are not. No point putting on a fake front and being accepted for it. It is not going to last long. Be your genuine self, share your life story, be proud of it. It's all part of life and people will connect with you better. Right? At the end of the day, showing your vulnerability helps you to be relatable. It shows that you are strong because you bounce out of failure. You build trust with others because they know you are open with them. You are authentic in sharing your true self. And you can invite help because people will know that you are open to inviting help if they need to outreach and evaluate you. And if we put on a strong front, people will feel that, hey, this guy is so strong, he do not need our help at all, right? And of course, the growth mindset, because the fact that we are willing to share our vulnerabilities and willing to work on them, it develops a growth mindset. And success is all about growth. All right? So, at the end of the day, your mess can be your message. Perhaps you face a big failure in your life. Perhaps you face a very deep hurt in your life. Perhaps you have down times in your life. It doesn't matter because these are the periods which truly inspire people. Think about it. All the heroes in this world, they are full of mess. Be it failures, be it troubles, be it being depressed. But it is those failures that help them become better, that help them become inspirational. So the mess that you face in your life, they can become your message, right? Okay, practice number 5. Focus on giving instead of getting. Focus on giving instead of getting. Many a times, especially in a common competitive society, people will always think, how can I gain advantage? How can I get more? How can I be more profitable? But I challenge all of you to reverse your mindset into, how can I value add others more? How can I benefit others more? What can I give to others? Because when we do that, the more we give, the more we shall receive. And it is not law of attraction. It is not karma. It is not anything. But it is the simple fact that you turn me into we. You allow other people to feel that you are part of them because you are willing to value add them. And when that happens, people will practice the law of reciprocity, right? And it is something that is proven that we are more likely to pay back what we receive from others. And when I talk about giving, you do not need to give your wealth. You do not need to give money. You don't need to give anything that you feel that you can't give. It can be as simple as giving a positive comment, which is easy, right? I see all of you are doing it right now. You're giving me so many positive comments and I'm truly thankful to all of you, right? It can be as simple as that. It does not need a lot of time, energy, or money. It is about that giving mindset that you want to have for others, right? Because what you want to do is to keep asking yourself, how can I value add? 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 When we give so much value, they would certainly give it back to you. Yeah? And to be a person of value, if you want people to value you, you must first definitely add value. Yeah? Okay, now practice number 6. A lot of people always say, treat others as we wish to be treated. Well, I would love to disagree because I believe that we should treat others as they wish to be treated. And let me give you an example. For me, I'm someone who is very open. I don't mind all of you giving me feedback. So if you notice that I'm becoming a little bit rounder, a bit plumber, you can just tell me, hey, Thomas, you are getting a little bit rounder. Time to go on a diet. And I am accepting of that. I would go on a diet. But if I would tell that to my girlfriend, I will end up sleeping in the living room. Am I right to say that? Ladies, if someone were to tell you that, you are going to be super angry. Am I right? Am I right? Be honest, be honest. And that's why sometimes it is not just so straightforward. Sometimes we need to take a detour before we can convey across the message. And I'm seeing some of you saying yes, some of you laughing, so I'm right to say that. And I call this the Trojan horse communication strategy. So I'm not sure if any of you have heard of this story before. So in the long historical past, there used to be two warring nations at battle for many years with no victors. One day, one side decided to give the other side a wooden horse, a gigantic wooden horse, as a gift of surrender, right? They pretend that they surrendered, they just leave the horse outside there. And the other country was very happy. Whoa, they thought they won. So they brought the horse into the city. And at night, it turns out that there are soldiers hiding in the horse. And at night, they came out and conquered the whole city. So the lesson learned right here is not to ask all of you to be involved in war, fights, and battle, but the whole idea is that sometimes for our message or our ideas to go through, we need to take a detour. So based on the example that I shared earlier, with my girlfriend, I shared that I cannot be too direct. What I can say is, dear, I think we can go running together because I think that it's a good dating activity. And I truly believe that running is a good dating activity. But with that, I also achieved the objective of helping her to keep fit and in shape, right? And she will certainly be more open to the idea compared to me saying, dear, I think you need to lose weight. And I say that, I think I will end up in the living room. Am I right? Am I right? Am I right? Give me a YES. Yes, if I'm right. I knew it. So sometimes we have to go from another angle. Okay, because at the end of the day, what we want is tell them what they want first, so that their mind will open, and then we can tell them what they truly need. Yep. Okay, practice number 7. Emotions create motions. So what we need to do is to speak with emotions. Because if you were to look at some of the greatest speakers, be it Rick Voidrich, Gary Vaynerchuk, Tony Robbins, Oprah Winfrey, and all those influential people, they speak with emotions. Because at the end of the day, emotions are the one which move people, right? We are all humans, are creatures of emotions. Think about it. When we are babies, the first thing we do out into this world is we cry. Correct? All of us cry. And why is it so? It's our way of expressing emotions. And that's why it is something truly deep in us. No one is emotionless. Everyone has emotions in them. And that's why if you want to communicate with them in a powerful manner, you need to exude their emotions and you need to elicit their emotions in them. And as Maya Angelou always said, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you make them feel. So if you want the people to remember you for a long, long time, make them feel great, right? So how we can do this is based on using our voice and the vocabularies we use. Vocabularies meaning the words we use, right? So for example, if I were to use voice, right? This is a popular extract from the speech of Dr. Martin Luther King, right? He used this speech to inspire many. But if I were to use this inspirational speech and speak it in a way like this, I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. No one will feel motivated, am I right? But if I would adjust my voice in this way, I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. All of you will feel more motivated, all of you will feel more inspired. Am I right? Because I trigger that emotions. And similarly, for the vocabulary we use, right? Sometimes in sales team, this is what they say. this year we need to achieve 50% increase in our sales of the team. We need to call 100 people every day, keep track of the target. Every quarter we will do a sales review. Don't really sound motivating, right? But what if I change the words that I use into, this year will be a breakthrough year. Let's work hard together and we will achieve 50% increase. Based on the calculation, we just need to outreach to 100 people every day. And as a form of appreciation, we will give bonus rewards. Sounds much better, right? It's the same idea. Yet why the second one is able to motivate people more? Because of the words used. So the words are important as well. Okay? And these highlighted words, breakthrough, together, calculation and projection, outreach, all these are words which bring the emotions across. Yeah? Okay, practice number 8. The best communicators are superb storytellers. That's right, storytelling is an amazing tool to convey across message. And let me give all of you an example. Let me share with all of you a story. How many of you know who this is? If you know who this is, key in into the chat his name. Who this is? Come, I'm looking right here. Who this is? Who is this person? Come. I'm seeing more answers in the chat. Come, who is this person that I'm showing right here? Anyone know who this is? Rock! That's right. He is the Rock. So most people would think that he is a very confident, a very charismatic person. Am I right? No, one of the manliest person in this world. But the truth is that he always have an insecurity. And this picture can tell if you were to really look closely. This insecurity has been his dark secret. Every time he's faced with this insecurity, he loses his confidence. He loses his conviction. So as confident as he may seem, this insecurity affected him a lot. And this insecurity, this flaw of his is the lack of hair. Yes, that's right. You may think that I'm joking, but the lack of hair is actually giving him this insecurity. And he has tried many ways to grow new hair itself. He would go on different nutritional diet. He went on different medication. He went on different trials and tribulations just to grow back his hair. But nothing works. And then one day, a friend introduced to him Serum X. So according to his friend, this Serum X will help him to grow back his hair and he will look more amazing and more confident than ever. But the Rock, he was in doubt. I've tried so many things. Nothing worked. What makes you think Serum X is going to be effective? And this, what the friend say? Just try. Just try. So the Rock thought that, well, I have nothing to lose. Just try. Who knows? Something great may happen. So he purchased the Serum X. It's not cheap, but him being the Rock, he can afford it. He purchased the Serum X. He took it out. He put it on his head. And he did this for a few days. To his surprise, hair actually started to grow. And after a month, it goes into a full-blown head with lots of radiant, robust hair. And he looked more amazing, he looked more confident, he looked more charismatic than ever. In fact, I have a picture of him. Do you want to see how he looked like? If you want to see how he looked like, put it into the chat. YES. Yes, I want to see how the Rock looks like right now with hair. Yes. Key into the chat if you want to see. Alright, I see a lot of yes, particularly from ladies. Are you all ready to see how the Rock looks like with hair? Here goes. Ta-da! Of course, this is just a joke. This is just a fictional story. But the message that I'm trying to convey across is just try. And how did I use this to convey across a message? Storytelling. If I were to just share with all of you, ladies and gentlemen, in face of difficulty, just try. the idea will not be implanted into your head. But now, when I weave it into this fictional story, you remember it better. Am I right? Just try. Am I right? I see a lot of yes coming out. Great that you are honest people. And that's why it's back to the idea that storytelling is an amazing tool to communicate. Yeah? And at the end of the day, you want to know that facts tell, stories sell. And even for technical presentation, work presentation, do share stories about it. Stories do not need to be fictional, do not need to be fairy tale. It can be personal stories. It can be stories of observations you have. All of those are stories as well. And in fact, if you were to notice, Titanic, one of the most popular movie of all centuries, after people leave the theater, they were crying, they were feeling angry, they were feeling so much emotions. But the thing is, these characters are fictional, and yet why are people so emotionally connected to it? Because of stories. Stories breathe life into the characters. It is as if that they are part of this world itself. It's as if that they are real people. That's the power of stories, right? And even for amazing luminaries of business like Steve Jobs, if you were to look at his presentation, instead of just sharing technical and facts and statistics, he shares stories after stories after stories of how Apple innovates and Apple became one of the most amazing brand around. And that's why with stories, it is able to build a very strong thrive, right? And same for Russell Brunson. Those of you who use ClickFunnels, he also used stories to sell his ideas across. And in one presentation, through stories, he's able to close $3 million worth of sales. Can you imagine that? At the end of the day, stories intrigue and interest people. They show transformation. They bring life. They evoke emotions, and they strengthen call to action. Right? Practice number 9. I'm going to keep this very brief because I see that we are running out of time. Use short and simple words. Right? When we speak, don't use complicated words. The whole idea is to convey our message across. Is to impact, not impress. Right? So you don't want your conversation to be like this, can't understand a single thing, right? It must be as easy as 1 + 1 = 2. Keep it simple, right? Because at the end of the day, simplicity creates clarity, clarity creates actionability. So the next time, be it through words, be it through text, be it through email, replace complicated words into a simplified version, right? Words such as conspicuous into visible, words such as unconventional into unique, words such as tranquilizing into calm, tumultuous into stormy, commensurate into comparable, right? No point using complicated words which people don't understand because it will affect the way we convey our message across and they will not get what we want them to understand, right? And now, moving on to the final practice, practice number 10, which links to this question is, how do I become better with my communication skills? Well, at the end of the day, communication is just like any other skill. It comes with learning, practicing, and refining. Yes, that's right. This is the final practice that I'm going to share with all of you. And this is one of the most important practice. And that's you have to be constantly learning, practicing, and refining. But exactly how? Well, here are some suggestions, right? Whenever you're communicating with someone, be conscious of it. Be actively practicing the things that you learn, right? Treat every interaction, be it with our friends, family, colleagues, as equal, prioritize all of them. And before we speak, think first, right? Think before we speak so that things will not be conveyed across in a wrong manner, right? And not just that, for us to constantly improve, gather feedbacks so that you understand how to do better. And of course, constantly reflect, review, refine so that you can continuously grow. Okay, so I've come to the end of my presentation. We are going to open for Q&A, but before that, if any of you have any questions, even after today's presentation, do connect with me through these different platforms so that I can value add all of you even more, right? Connect with me through this different platform. Send me a message, send me what you learned, and if you want me to share more with you, let me know. Connect with me through this different platform. All right. So now I've come to the end of the presentation. I hand it back to the facilitator. So now we can go on with the next parts.
Yes, thank you so much, Sir Thomas Chen. I don't know what else uh, can I call the presentation that you gave. All right. Um, it was nothing short of incredibly informative and interesting. No wonder your presentation, your communication skills is so impeccable. And for that, congratulations. All right. And stay behind for the, I think we have a question answer portion. But before that, we're going to have a quiz competition, and I think it will be handled by Mr. Showman, one of the moderators and the organizer of this webinar. But before that, you know what? I was so struck with the the lecture that you gave about the mess that's happening around us, the troubles, the conflict can be associated with the lack of effective communication. So I am now thinking that our leaders of today should they actually inculcate among their minds the effective communication, then there will be peace on earth. And also, I was so struck with one of, I think that's proverb, uh, the statement treated as you wish to be treated. If that kind, it's a profound statement that if all the leaders around the world would actually, I mean, absorb and internalize, and then I don't think there would be, I mean, mess that's happening around the world. So the question is, are you willing to accept the challenge that you have to teach our leaders around the world, spread the good news, and keep on telling them that for us to have unity, peace around us is to establish a better and effective communication. Your topic is so powerful, all right, that it actually affects all of us. So for that, congratulations on behalf of Institute of Global Professionals. We thank you for that very, very stunning presentation. All right. Okay. So I think before we're going to proceed with the question answer portion, I think Mr. Showman yes, well, would like to, I mean, start with the quiz competition. Okay. This is open for everyone who is attending this webinar. So, Mr. Showman, it's your turn.
Thank you, Sir Gafur. And before we move to the quiz competition, I want to say something to the participants. Our maximum participants today is from Philippines, and our host today, Mr. Gafur, he is also from Philippines. Actually, he forgot to introduce himself in the beginning stage. He is also from Philippines,
Yes, that's not a
and you are the
problem.
first host from Philippines.
Oh, really? It's a pleasure.
Yes. Okay, it's time for quiz competition. So already 41, 42 joined. So I think we should allow only 2 or 3 minutes more. Nothing, only 2 or 3 minutes more. Because after quiz competition, we have a Q&A. $52, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 60. You don't need any link, or you don't need to download anything. Just go to browser and browse Kahoot in website, and just put the game pin 2121902, and you can directly in for quiz competition. Sir Gafur.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah,
Yes.
can you see something in the screen right now? I saw that in
Yeah.
I saw that one participant write the name, his or her, nothing.
Sir.
In quiz competition already 101% joined. From
Okay.
101, I can see someone write his or her name as nothing.
I see. Okay. So is the quiz competition going on?
Yeah, now I can start.
So we have it to start. Okay. So on the screen you can see the results of our quiz competition. Okay. So okay. So I've heard that 100 of the participants are actually joining the said quiz competition. And of course, certificates will be awarded to those lucky winners, all right, who will be able to answer the question that's being projected on the screen. Okay, so we have here the scoreboard. Okay, and then yes, uh, I think there's a variety of questions. There is true or false, and then here we go. And also, I would like to remind those participants that we would be projecting short clip video on the screen on the ways on how you can actually claim your certificate of participation. All right. I think my co-partner Showman will show you the short video clip uh, showing how you're gonna download and claim your certificate of participation. All right. So right now on the screen, we are actually checking. all your answers, and then afterward, uh, we will find out who's going to be the winner, okay, for the quiz, online quiz competition. Again, certificate will be awarded to the winner of this quiz competition. And if I'm not mistaken, that will also be posted on the FB page of the Institute of Global Professionals. That's how lucky you are. All right. So at this moment, okay, your score is now being processed, okay, on the screen. And in just a short while, we will know who's going to be the winner for this quiz competition. So as to how many winners will be declared, I have no idea. Most probably. Okay, so let's just wait for the results. And then while we are actually seeing the results of your scores on the screen, then you can actually prepare your questions that you want to ask from our invited resource speaker. So what you're gonna do is you can just uh, type in your question in the comment section below, all right? And then afterward, that will be collected, and then we have to give time for the question and answer portion because our resource speakers are just there to answer all those questions that you have in mind. All right, I'm pretty sure that we will be flooded with lots and lots of questions from our participants since our topics are so relatable that everyone is so affected. Okay, starting from the first topic, that's uncovering your potential, and also the topic communicate to connect, are those topics that are very timely and relevant, especially among the students, where the young people are in the process of still unleashing, discovering their, what do you call this, their potential. And for those participants who actually paid attention to the first speaker, okay, you're so lucky enough because you will now be guided on how you could possibly discover and improve your potential. Okay. Uh, I wonder if you could still remember when she discussed about having a self introspection. That is, you have to come up with a self assessment and then you have to take a stock and keep on asking yourself, where am I right now? And where you want to be in the future, something like that. So things like you have to take away all those limiting beliefs for you to get out from that, as Mama Kylie called it, comfort zone. So if you are happy staying in that comfort zone, the tendency is that you cannot reach your full potential, or you cannot actually achieve your purpose in life because you're just being limited there. You're so happy being there without thinking of having the professional growth. So that's it. So if you want to grow as a person, and then you have to do all those tips that's been shared by our first speaker, uh, Mom Kylie. All right, because you know what, you've heard straight from the horse's mouth. All those tips are so, helpful in discovering the potential, or there are instances wherein you have this hidden skills that you are not aware of. All right, so it's time for you to do a scan. I call it scan, or you could uh, map up yourself and try to find out what are those skills that you have that you haven't still yet discovered. All right, by following the tips, okay, that's been shared to us earlier by our first speaker, you can actually do discover and improve your potential. Okay, because in the long run, especially among the youth participants, you are the next in line who's going to run the affairs of our society. So at this stage, it is but advisable that you have to discover your potential so that you can make use of it once you become the leader of our society. All right. And so the same is true with the case of the topic that's been shared to us by Mr. Chen about communication, about establishing an effective communication. All right. So I think we have a winner. Congratulations, first, second, third. Okay, I think we have a name on the screen. It's that Jen. Oh, the number one is Marga. Okay, her name is Marga. Yes. Tab two is Jen
Jane and Ruby.
and and Ruby. Okay, so
Yeah,
congratulations, guys, for making it on the quiz competition. Marga got ranked as number one, and Jen number two, and Ruby ranked number three. Congratulations, guys. Okay, you did well.
and it's a cordial request. Please contact with our page inbox with your full name. That can we can issue the certificate immediately. So it's a request those who are first, second, and third. Please contact with our page inbox with within short time that we can issue the certificate immediately.
Okay, so we have to remind this the first three to submit your full name to be printed on your certificate. All right. Okay, so they have to log in or maybe in the comment section below. But I don't think.
Now we are moving for our Q&A.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we're done with the quiz competition, and congratulations for all those winners. You did a great job. Now, as at this moment, ladies and gentlemen, let's pave this way for the question and answer portion. And I think we have to call back our All right, so here we go with our question and answer portion. So we'd like to call back our speakers to join us again to pave way for some of the questions that it's being posed by our participants. So we have question to Sir Thomas from Maria Teresa Oreo. It says, in communicating effectively, how can tactfulness in delivery be applied in a situation when the listener or audience is hard to please?
Very, very good question. So, in any situation, the other party will always have an end objective, what they want to achieve. So, our duty as effective communicators is to establish the end objective of theirs and try our best to help them to fulfill. That said, there are times where their end objectives are conflicting with ours. It is natural, right? Perhaps you want to go with plan A and they are so focused on plan B that they will not shift out of the way. In that situation, sometimes it is best to take a step back. We can do all the explaining, we can do all the understanding, but at the end of the day, if that is their direction, it can be a professional difference. So we have to take a step back or part ways from there. But we always want to start off by establishing what is their end objective, and is there any way for us to adjust it accordingly such that both our objectives are able to come together seamlessly. Hope that answers.
Okay, thank you, Sir Thomas, for that, for answering that question. We have another question from Manolita Ramas Olego, and it says, nowadays people prioritize money over character. How can we shift that in a way that young people will understand that in leaving their legacy in others, it takes more than money? So I think anybody from the speakers can answer the question, because nothing is stated as to whom the question is addressed.
For me, it's about looking at your values and your beliefs and finding out your whys. Why do you believe certain things? What do you value? Because it may be that some people, that their legacy is that they just want to leave behind piles and piles of money. Maybe that money might be used for really good things, setting up foundations, helping charities. So there could be some positives out of prioritizing the money, depending on obviously how you're going to use it. But in order to shift them to maybe think about, I guess, others and community and something greater themselves, I look at your values and your beliefs. Like, what do you value? Like, help. If you were looking to help other people, if you were looking to leave something, what would you want people to remember about you? What would you want people to be saying about you? Is it really that you want people to say, oh, she had a big bank account? Or is it that you want people to say, she did some good in the world, she made her impact?
All right, thank you, Kelly, for answering that question. This time from Mia Joy, the log dog, and says, how to overcome fear during interviews. It's a very nice question. How are you going to overcome fear during interviews? Or what are the tips of overcoming fear during interviews?
Yeah, I think both of us, we can share a bit, because I think Kylie, she has some specialties in this as well. So from my point of view, I always think that fear represents false evidence appearing real. A lot of times our fear happens in here, but they are non-existent as well. So we truly want to ask ourselves, what is the cause of the emotions itself? Is it because of our fear of judgment? Is it because of our fear of failure? Or is it because the fear that we may not be able to do well? When you identify it, that's how you can address it. Hey, so what if I fail? I can still have other opportunities. So what if I don't look good in this interview? I can be better next time round. So what if I stutter and stammer? Well, everyone starts from somewhere. I stutter and stammer this time round. It helps to improve my communication skills. So next time round, I can do better. So it's really about reframing the mind from something that is limiting into something that is empowering. So the first step is to identify what is the cause of the fear, and the second step is to reframe it accordingly.
All right, thank you, Chen, for that. Yes.
Yeah, maybe,
Would you share
yeah,
something,
Kylie,
Kylie?
I would love to listen to her response too.
No,
Okay.
I was just saying, like, what Tom said there was absolutely amazing advice. I mean, our fears go into, it's not the interview we're fearful of, it's being rejected, looking like a fool. That's what we're fearful of, not the interview itself. Like, the interview isn't going to hurt us, but being rejected might. So it's exactly that, you know, putting that reframe on it, that perception. What's the worst case going to be if that interview doesn't go well? Well, you don't get that job. Okay, you go to the next interview and you improve. You learn from what happened. It's not going to kill you. That interview not going well, it's not going to kill you. Or what could happen? You go to the interview and you do brilliantly. They love you. You get the job. And the other thing there is, in order to try and maybe combat some of those nerves, is practice. Go through the interview with a friend or a family member. Go through the types of questions you're going to be asked. Practice them and get that confidence. I said it earlier before, competence equals confidence. So feel competent in your answers and you'll feel confident in the interview.
Thank you, Mom Kylie, for sharing your thoughts. All right, it's a very insightful answer. And then we have another question. This from Rochi. It says, do you have any strategies on how to deal with participants who are challenging you during your discussion?
Very good
Okay, let's
question.
start
So
with
yeah,
yes.
I will start it off. So the first step we want to establish is what type of challenge are you really talking about? Is it someone who's aggressively challenging you just to impose their point of view? You know, some people you can just never communicate with them. That's the fact of life. And that is what I mentioned earlier. When it comes to communicators that are very aggressive, no matter what we do, they would be even more aggressive. So if that situation requires you to still develop some working relationship with them, then sometimes if it does not do any harm to us, we can take a step back, be passive at some times so that they are more open-minded. Because sometimes when we talk about communicating with aggressive people, sometimes if we use the aggressive approach as well, it is going to end up in a fight. And sometimes if we use an assertive approach, they are not going to really care about our point of view. So it doesn't really work. Sometimes we need to take a step back, be passive about it. So it all lies back to, trying these different communication styles for individuals, because different people will be appealed to different communication styles. So back to this question of someone who is constantly challenging you, you really want to ask what type of challenge, because sometimes people are just aggressively challenging you. Sometimes they challenge you because they want you to become better at it. Sometimes they challenge you because they feel that by challenging you, more discussion can be discussed, can be created from there. So you really want to know what is the end objective. From there, refine your communication styles accordingly. Try different styles a little bit, see what appeals best to them, and that's how you can bring across the end objective you want.
Very well said. Thank you, Mr. Chen. How about Mom Kelly? Do you want to share something about the question? Okay, so now let's proceed to another question, this time from Amuro Ray. And it says, good evening, Mom Kylie. Definitely it's Mom Kylie. My question is that in the continuous competitive world of leaving legacies, what can people do to face the fear of forgetting the one you call home, that is a lie, or that is like a hindrance of uncovering one's potential?
Okay, so I'm just breaking that question down myself.
Yes, it's too lengthy, actually.
I'm not quite sure what's meant by the one you call home. So that is like a hindrance of uncovering. Okay, so I'm going to break this down as to what I think's being asked. My apologies if it's not quite right, and that isn't what's quite being asked of me. So, I think we all have a fear of not necessarily being remembered for what we necessarily want to, but you can't control what others are going to think. All you can do is you can control what you are doing and what you are putting out into the world. So if you've got an idea, you've got a belief, you've got a want that you want to be remembered, you want your legacy to be for a certain thing, that you, whether that's you've done good, you've set up a charity, you've helped people, you've made your impact in the world, you are selfless, whatever that is, as long as you're staying true to you and you're aligned with your beliefs and your values and you're working on that, that's all you can ask. You can't control what others are going to think, but you can control how aligned you are to that belief, that thing that you're working on. And that's all anyone can ask of you.
All right, I think Kylie was able to answer that question. Now we have another one from, I think this is Lizard Don Wayne. Okay, I got it right. To start, Thomas, how can one avoid miscommunication when you're communicating through online platforms like text or chats when the delivery of the word is not observed?
Nice question. So the thing is, what I practice sometimes, especially when I have a long message that I want to convey across, is voice recording. Because from our voice itself, the other party is able to tell our emotions, our feelings, the way we express ourselves. In terms of text, which is why I mentioned that text being one of the written communication style, it is also important to see how we communicate with others. And I can see the audience here are very polite because all of you constantly say, Sir Thomas, Sir Thomas, Sir Thomas. This is not what I practice in my country itself. So I can tell that you all are very polite. And that is one way to convey across a message, isn't it? So the way where we take, if compared to someone who just say, Thomas, how can I go right into the question? It gives a different vibe compared to the form that you are doing it right now. And hence, even through text itself, you are able to transfer emotions through text if you were to really observe it. So what I would encourage you to do, in fact, is to create that awareness that your text, that your chat represents how you are truly feeling. Because sometimes we can be very excited about a particular subject, but the way we text, because we want shortcut, we don't want to text too many words, or we just give a one-word reply, it may bring across another meaning. So that's something we have to be wary of.
All right, thank you, Sir Chen, for answering that question.
There you go.
And then
It's sir.
yes, we have another one uh, from DM Mahusai. It says, what is the best way to address the anxiety of students towards education? I think this is going out to Kylie, being a personal coach.
We've all, again, when we talk about that anxiety, that fear, it goes a little bit to what we were talking when we were talking about that interview. The anxiety isn't towards the education itself. It's not picking up the textbook or sitting in the class. The anxiety comes from, what if I don't understand? What if I don't get this? What if I'm made to look stupid? What if I'm rejected because of that? Ergo, my colleagues, and my counterparts reject me. So it's the fear outside of the education. It's not the education itself. So again, the advice would be very similar. Try and put a perspective on that. It's not the education that you're fearing. It's the rejection that could come from that, the downfalls that could come from that situation. The book isn't scary. The lecture isn't scary. And it doesn't matter if you have to read that book 100 times or one time. It doesn't matter if you have to take notes in that lecture and re-look at that lecture 100 times for it to sink in. We all learn at different rates and we all learn differently. And also take that on board. We learn so differently. Some of us are visual, some of us are audio, some of us are kinetic, which means we feel. So some people will do great with looking at slides. Some people will do better at listening to lectures. Some people do better repeating their notes out loud to themselves in order for it to sink in. So be kind to yourself. Again, that language, I don't want to hear, I can't do this, I'm not going to this. Try and find that solution finding language. How do I look at this book and understand what's being said? How do I learn best? What do I need to do to get the most out of this lecture? And if you can try and put a perspective on that, and we can try and find that solution finding language, all of a sudden that education isn't so scary, because it's not the education, it's the fear of rejection. I might look stupid, I might show up and say something and my peers are going to reject me. So, as I say, there's loads of ways to look at that perspective, and we all learn differently. So just because your colleagues and your peers are learning one way, that doesn't mean that's what's best for you. We've all got different levels of learning, whether it's visual, audio, or kinetic. We all learn to find your way, try different methods for what suits in most for you. And again, practice makes perfect. Repeat, repeat, repeat. No one expects you to go to a lecture once and understand. You're going to have to look at that lecture several times and reread those notes, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yes, very well said, Ma'am Kylie. And then we've got another one from Carmilla Jane. Okay, it says, what is the best way to do to communicate or deal with a person who don't want to speak up? Thank you.
Here's the interesting thing. Communication is part of human nature. Even since young, as babies, we are trying to communicate with people. So the idea is not the person do not want to communicate, but rather what is their ideal communication style. Because some people, they don't really like to speak much. Some people prefer to text. Some people prefer perhaps social media, or some people perhaps prefer voice call. So the idea is to get what is their preferred mode of communication and communicate from there. Because everyone, humans, we long for communication, we long to build connection, we long to build relationship. Imagine being in a world with no relationship, no communication. That will be a very, very lonely world. So everyone is looking to connect and communicate with others. But the idea is, what is their preference? So identify their preference and communicate with them accordingly.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Chen, for answering that question. Uh, do we have other question? Could that be all? I think that's all for the question. And then, yes, I would like to invite all those participants to please do watch out this video that's on the screen, because this will serve as your guide on how are you going to claim your certificate. All right. All right. So there you go. Uh, the video showing you on how you could possibly claim your certificates. So I think we have covered a lot on the ground. All right. And then I think I have to, let's go back to our speakers and let's ask them if there's anything else that you want to cover before the wrap up. All right. Can we go back to our speakers? Let's ask them if there's anything else that they wanted to cover before the wrap up of this webinar.
Can you hear me?
Thank you so
Good,
much.
good.
I
Good.
saw
Thank you so
just
much.
very quickly that a lady called Roxanne asked a question, and it was in relation to environments where the leaders don't recognise employees' opportunities to grow. And very quickly, that is a very hard situation to be in. If you're trying to show your potential, you're taking on new challenges and new projects, My advice there is two things. Either speak to the senior directly and explain that you're wanting to show your best capabilities, you're wanting to climb the ladder, try and have a conversation. If that doesn't work, I'm trying to initiate a forum within the company where some of you can get together, potentially with other leaders or other seniors, and you can talk about opportunities and explain how you want to develop, what ideas you've got. And maybe, and I know it's going to be tough, but you're going to have to take charge and get that situation under control yourself. Take the steps, talking to the senior. If you still don't get anywhere, try and take steps to create a small forum yourself with other colleagues, other seniors. And not that it's a criticism to the other senior, professionalism, but you just explain you want a space where you want to be able to talk about growth, development, being able to level up, and it's a safe space to do so. But you're going to have to make it happen.
All right. Thank you, Kylie, for sharing your profound thought. And I think that concludes our tonight's webinar. But before that, on behalf of the Institute of Global Professionals, we would like to express our hearty thanks and appreciation to our invited speakers for doing a great job. Ma'am Kylie Harrell, and of course, Sir Thomas Chen, for taking time off of your busy schedule to join us for tonight's webinar. It's a pleasure having you here, guys. And as I was saying earlier, we're looking forward to having you again for another series of webinar. All right. And also, we would like to express our appreciation and thanks to all of our participants for joining us tonight. And I think all is well that ends well. This has been Gafur Kaniban, your host for tonight's webinar, saying thank you and hope you have a blessed night and stay safe as always. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.